You want to say, we've never really announced ourselves today. And you say, what's up, everybody? I'm Chase, and then I'll say, I'm Shep. We're bringing you a nice Thanksgiving special presentation. Yeah. Yeah, I'm ready. You're filming, right?
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. What's going on? I'm Chase.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
What the fuck?
Oh, shit. Oh, no. Oh, shit.
I'm Shep.
I got stuck. What the fuck? Oh, man. Oh, no. What the fuck, man? What the fuck? I'm so fucking scared right now, guys. I guess he was choking. I guess he was.
Yeah. Let's hear it one more time for the highly inappropriate intro video.
I love it. It's all of our own stuff. So I mean, unless we don't like our own stuff, we wouldn't like the intro. And
That is true. That
So
is
I
true.
love
You gotta wade through that to get the Monday versions of us. You know, if you can't handle us at our demon hunting selves, you know.
This is very true.
But
You
yes,
gotta get that.
we'll be putting that to rest though after this. Pinata Time says, "Howdy, how y'all doing?" I'm doing
We're
great.
doing great.
Doing
We're doing
great.
great, Pinata
I didn't want to put words in your mouth, but yeah, we're doing great, and we're doing great because for the third time we've got
Returning.
Alex Duquette back on the show. Muted.
He's muted. I don't know. Here, hit the button.
Can't unmute
Sorry,
your guests
hello.
because they chose to
I got
mute
it.
themselves.
I got it.
Oh.
Sorry.
And he's back.
Hey guys,
And he's back.
I loved the intro. That was wild.
Thank
That was
you.
awesome. Because it really like nails exactly what like the stuff you've been doing. I'm still partial to your Halloween special. I still think that's one of the best. That was so
thank
good.
you. Thank you. We wish you could have been here for that one.
I know we barely missed that one. Like I think I was in Illinois like.
Well, we
that
filmed together
day.
the day before.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we did. Yeah,
Camp Nostalgic's Thanksgiving episode, and
that's right.
so we celebrated Thanksgiving one day, Halloween the next, and my whole month was so thrown off. I thought Halloween was done for like 2 weeks, and every time I
Right.
walked into a store, I was like, "Why do they still have Halloween stuff out?"
Yeah, it's so bizarre. Hey, Randy. I saw you said
Alex
it's that
sang
boy
so
and
much.
Pinata.
Can't
Hey,
talk now.
I did sing a lot. There was a lot of singing. But guys, thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah,
I'm always love chatting with you guys. It's fun.
yeah, it's been a while. I'm happy to catch up with you because I know you've been kind of a busy guy as of late. You did the music and sound design on my short film Routine earlier in the year. And so even though we got to work together on something, I never really saw you during the process.
Right.
And then
That's
you
true.
just released, at long last, your first official album, Songs from Sangamon Street.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Yeah. Songs from Sangamon Street. Well, first of all, I just want to say Routine. If you haven't seen that, check that out. It's something that myself and all the others at Camp Nostalgic who produced it, we're all very proud of that. And that's nothing if it weren't for Chase's incredible concept of it all. So anyway, it was really cool. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, Songs from Sangamon Street's an album I've been working on for quite a while. I think I started it I actually started it when I still had my broken wrist. That would have been like February of 2022. All the drum parts I played with a cast on my wrist, believe it or not. So back at that point. But yeah, so it's a long time coming. It's 9 songs. You can check it out anywhere. I mean, I don't know. It's just, there's a lot to it. it's hard to explain kind of like what part you want to talk about because it's kind of my baby. I did it all on there, so.
Well, first I want to say I think after a few listens and listening as I was editing the performance set, I think Rolodex is my favorite of the bunch.
Rolodex, okay, yeah. Rolodex seems to be a favorite of a lot of friends and family, which is pretty cool. One thing about Rolodex that I like is that, and some of my other songs, but Rolodex in particular, because all my songs on Songs from Sangamon Street, 9 songs, most of them are good too. I'm glad most of them are good. That's great. I'd love to know which ones you think suck, Randy. Tell me in the comments below what songs on Songs from Sangamon Street suck. That's what I would have
favorite. Can you guess what my favorite is? What do you think Randy's favorite song is?
I think Randy's favorite is Breadcrumbs and Vaseline because that's the story of his life. That's what I think. Living off breadcrumbs and Vaseline. That's what I think. But no, so one thing about Rolodex I was just going to say was that that's a perfect example of kind of how I write my songs. So all those songs they're stories, right? So you heard the album, so they all kind of tell stories. That's how I like to write songs, right? But I still try to make them relatable to everyday life and the human condition. But what I do is I take like bits and pieces of like real life events and then like throw them in there to add some personality and add some personalness to it. So Rolodex, it's about, a very old friend of mine. So I took bits and pieces of that relationship with them and threw that in there, right? So like, and then I added extra flary things too. So it's one way I like to write a lot.
Apparently you got the nail on the head with Randy.
Yep. Breadcrumbs and Vaseline, that was a fun one. That one's kind of all over the place, which is what I like. But yeah, I guess if I were to describe Songs from Sangamon Street to someone who hasn't heard it before, it's basically, well, I guess I'll read 84 Weber's thing here. The fact that you did all those drum parts in a cast that just earned you more brownie points in my book. Well, it wasn't easy, but it's fun. It was fun to try it. But no, I was just going to say Songs from Sangamon Street, basically, if you're curious, it's not really a concept album, if you know what that is. That's a really loose term to use for what my thing is. It's just basically Sangamon Street, and there's 9 different people with 9 different stories, right? Or, a group of people with different stories, and each story is told through a song. That's kind of the general idea. And then, of course, Sangamon Street is, well, it's where I'm from. Sangamon Street's a real place. So for my Illinois family and friends, it's a cool little, like, nod to back home. So that was kind of how I, like, pushed it to, like, people back home in, like, Illinois, like, where you guys are at. It was like, look for all the references. There's Champaign references, and there's Gibson City references and all that stuff. So just a fun little way to get people to go, oh, wait, what's he doing? And then hopefully they'd listen to it. That's kind of the idea. So it was a lot of fun to write.
I caught one or two.
Yeah, I figured. I think it's only one Champaign reference. That's in the first song, Cookie Cutter Life. I talk about Prospect Avenue.
Yep.
And I knew I wanted to sing about that because usually when I write, I'll like have a title or like a phrase first, And then I thought I wanted to put Prospect Avenue in a song, and I thought, okay, one headlight on Prospect Avenue, and then I did it. Pinata, you love the album. You've been looping it the last few days. Well, I appreciate it. I got some of my fans over here. That's cool. Conflict of Interest for the win. Thank you.
That's true. Gella and I were discussing it the other day when I saw her, and she brought up Conflict of Interest. That's another good one.
Yeah, that's a fun one. That's a complete just story song about a guy who, about a guy who gets a job. And then before he gets the job, he meets this girl and they start seeing each other. And then the boss of this guy that he just gets a job with, that's his daughter. And he's trying to hide the fact that he's dating his new boss's daughter. So I like to write fun stuff like that because those are like really specific events, but like, that's happened to somebody. Right. Yeah. And that's kind of my big goal with the album is to just relate to people.
Yeah. I feel like what you were saying before with it not being a concept album, I almost got mixed up, called it a conflict album. A concept album is that it's kind of like, Stephen King will write novels and then he'll always throw out his short story collections. And this feels more like a short story collection.
Yeah.
Than than a novel.
That's a good way to put it. Like, it's not like just like a normal standard album where it's just, hey, I wrote 11 songs or whatever, listen to it. But it's also not a concept album where there's like this one theme. Yeah, it's kind of in the middle. Like, just kind of like you said, it's like a series of short stories. That's a perfect way to put it. A conflict of interest album. But yeah, so I don't know, man. I'm so proud of it, but it's like, it's at the same time, I'm so freaking tired of it too. Because I worked on it for so long, you know, like once you work on something, I mean, you know, like Shep, I know you can understand too, because I mean, you make music too. Like once you're like, when you're in the weeds in a project and then like you're finally out of it, it's like you feel good that it got out, like you released your baby into the world, but at the same time, you're so like tired, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're
Like,
tired. It's a weird state too, because it's like, for me it's always like there's like a form of depression that kind of sits in, because you're like, well, I'm done working on what I've been working on for like months now. You're like, cool, I don't really want to move on to something new, and then it's like, but you can't just go back and tinker with the songs you've already put out, because then it's like, shit, you know.
Yeah,
it's unique.
You're kind of creatively, you kind of touched on something of that little bit of depression. Like you're creatively burnt out because like you just put all your time and effort into this, you know, into this project, like I just did. But then like, so you don't want to go on to the next thing, but also like I'm sad because it's over and I don't have a direction I want to go now. Like, okay, now what? Right? It's kind of this weird middle gray area, and you're just kind of like sad for a little bit. So I actually just finished the album a few weeks ago. It wasn't that long. So these last couple weeks, I've just been kind of coasting by, not really working on much because I just needed to pull back and chill.
Yeah.
You work so hard on these things, you know?
Yeah. Pinata Time said it was relatable for his animations as well. And yeah, I think it's a thing that all creative people can kind of relate to, that exhaustion. I know Shep and I both needed a minute after summer camp. You're like,
sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you guys went through so much of summer camp, though, like behind the scenes. Like,
yeah,
some people may not know. It's crazy. So that doesn't help either.
It was a good time.
But
It was, but you know, and that's kind of how I feel about some of the things, like especially like a week or so after I've released an album, I'll be sitting around listening to it again, and I'll be like, man, this all sucks. Why'd I put this out? This sucks, you know? But then it's like, you know, you give it time. I come back like a year later and listen to it, and it's like, oh, I was wrong. Like, no, this is really good. This is aged well. Yeah. I really like this.
That's
and I know
true too. Like, oh, sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say, I know, like with summer camp, we kind of got there too. By the end of it, you're just ready to get done, be done with it. I don't even want to watch no summer camps after this, because like I'm summer camped. But then, you know, the next summer, you're like, oh fuck, I'm gonna watch that whole summer camp series now, and it's great. It's great to go back on and watch. And you're like, damn, it was a lot better than I thought it was when we first dropped it.
Yeah,
I think there's this fatigue that you get. For me, because I mixed the album as well. I mixed and mastered it. You get this ear fatigue, right? Like when I was working on songs from Sangamon Street, you know, like I really loved recording it and singing it and putting it all together, arranging it and stuff. But then you just hear the same thing over and over and over again. And the more you do that, I think the less likely you are to make good changes, because you're just so used to it and you're just kind of hearing the same thing. It's good to step away and just not listen to it for a while. Because you'll always want to fix things that may not even need to be fixed.
Yeah.
Right? Like you know, I felt that way about, because you can keep tinkering and messing with stuff. Because I kind of felt that way at first with this album. Like I put it out, it was done. Or not put it out, but I sent it to my distributor to put everywhere. And then I'd listen back and I'd go, just like you said, Shep, it was like, this isn't that great. Like there's some things that need to change, you know, but at that point, it's out of your hands, because you'll never, like, for people like us, it's kind of tough. Like, you always have that perfectionist mindset. You always want to fix something. But at the end of the day, you know what? Just like with the stuff you've put out, like it's served its purpose, and it's doing what it needs to do. You know, and if you listen back in a year and you do like it, that means you did the right thing, right? You just needed to step away from it for a while first. So, and the nice thing for me with these songs, I've been getting so much feedback, more so than I ever thought I would for this album. And I'm very thankful for that. It's almost overwhelming that it kind of helps validate that. Like, it is good. It's out. People are enjoying it, and it's resonating with them. And that's what matters to me. So,
Mm-hmm.
What's
Rachel
Weber got
Weber
to say?
says, that's why I haven't screen wrote in a hot minute. I was doing too much and making too many changes, so I just had to step away for a while. Yeah, that's very true. I was
Definitely
going to say
happens.
my recent thing with that is our 2-year anniversary video that I've been putting together. I When I first sat down to do it, I was just watching the same stuff over and over again, and we've put out a lot of stuff too. So to sit there and just have to watch all of the stuff that we already spent all of this time making, it got to a point where I'm just like, I don't know what to do anymore, or I'm thinking way too much about it. So I stepped away for a little while. And I got back to it about a week or so ago, and was like, oh, now I see what I need to do, and I know what to cut and change
Yep.
and kill my darlings here, and
Yep.
it's coming together. And I think stepping away was for the best. I forget who it is. I think maybe either Stephen King or Quentin Tarantino. I forget who it was, but they talked about their writing process, and that's what they do. I mean, they'll put it in a drawer. I think it's Stephen King. I think he writes it and he'll put that shit in a drawer, and a few months later we'll come back and reread everything he wrote and go from there.
You have to step away. I can't remember who said this, but I know on the music side in particular, they say every time you enter like a session where you're going to be mixing music, after the first like 60 seconds, literally that quick, or 120 seconds, those are the times when you're going to make your most effective changes with music, which is wild because that's only like 2 minutes. But like they just said, like they've done studies on people, and like, because anything past that, you're already used to it. So you need to go to a different song and come back and everything. And I tried to do that the best I could with these songs, over the last 9-10 months that I've been working on it. But it's tough because like, when you're a person who's not like a professional money-making musician, right? Like you have a full-time job. So like you got this job, so you can't just like work and step away because you're limited on your time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always a rough thing too.
By the time I get to sound design, I kind of half-ass it. I'm just so overlooking it, and I want to share it. I'm trying to get better about that because it's important to have sound effects. Yeah, I feel that. I definitely feel that.
Take it from the sound designer for Camp Nostalgic Studios. I would like to say it's an important job.
It's definitely an important job. Take it from Chase and Shep, whose sound design is usually piss poor at best. I mean,
man,
it's usually for that reason. By the time I'm done shooting and editing and all that shit, by the time it gets to the sound design, I'm like, God, I need to ship this to Alex. I'm just
right.
Well, I just don't even want to.
I remember, I think it was so funny. This was months ago when you were working on the Halloween video,
mm-hmm.
and you were asking me a couple questions like, hey, I have some troubled audio in a couple spots.
Mm-hmm.
What's your advice? And I said, well, if it's too far gone, you're kind of, SOL, right?
Yeah.
But I gave you some tips. And I remember it was a little bit. Then you text me back and you're like, I think it's fine. I think I'll figure it out. It's like, all right, you know what? Do what you got to do, man. I get it. Because the thing about sound design in particular is that, and this goes for anything. This goes for sound design. This goes for video editing. This goes for any sort of art, mixing music, albums, whatever, right? To be in theme with what we're talking about. It's that if it's done right, no one's going to notice it. No one will notice it if it's done right. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like the unsung hero kind of stuff. But if it's done bad, people are going to notice it. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just kind of how it is. And in my opinion, that goes a long way with like, yeah, actually like mixing like an album. Or even, like video stuff too. You can tell like if somebody's using a microphone for one part, then they're not for another part, But it's tough to do too. Like it's very meticulous work.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to it. It's
very I always feel like our videos that look the best sound the worst, and our videos that look the worst sound the best. I feel like the Thanksgiving Project and Easter Sunday both had some decent sound in those, and they both have that intentionally, kind of home video look to them.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. You got to have your, not everything, you got to have your ups and your downs, right? That sort of thing. Oh, Breakout. My guarantee's never better. Okay, so I have an old song that I wrote forever ago. That was from Randy. He was talking about a song I wrote called Breakout. It was one of the first full songs I wrote. because I don't know if you know this, but I actually haven't been writing forever. Like, I've been a musician for as long as I can remember, but I just started writing music really back in like 2018. So it was pretty recent, and some of these songs are actually from that time that I just kind of put away, you know. But Breakout was a rare exception. That was also a story song. That seemed to have always been a thing I like to do, is write story songs. So Breakout was about a guy breaking out of prison because his girl is like sleeping around with some dude, and he's gonna go like kill this guy. And the whole point of the song is, the chorus is, I'm gonna break out just to get back in, because he's gonna go kick that guy's ass, go back to prison, basically. So just fun stories.
Side note on the sound effects: wish I was a fly on the wall when you did the Stoopy and Fran sound effects. Me too.
Well, they were there when Stoopy Fran, Camp Nostalgic. Check it out. There's my little plug for CN. But Stoopy and Fran was hilarious, and they were actually there for part of it. So they were there because I am Stoopy, right? I'm the voice of Stoopy. So I did the wow, all that stuff, and the fart sound effects and everything. And they were there for like the first episode, some of it. Okay, just give me a bunch of takes of fart. So I'm just sitting there going, you know, making all these weird noises. Just, we'll take whatever we could take. So it probably sounded like an old like 90s like cartoon or something, slapstick going on.
I am always just amazed by sound design, especially like I said with ours. You know, we really don't know how to do it as well. So when I was in Memphis with you and Dave, and we were doing the sound for the Dick Shepherd commercial, it was magical. I mean, I had so much fun watching that process like before my eyes.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
it was such a blast. So now every time I think that is probably the one video, either my own or Camp Nostalgic related, that I show the most people, because I'm like, I love just telling them that I traveled all the way to Memphis, Tennessee for this, and then I show them the Dick Shepherd commercial. I'm like, yeah, we filmed these boners, and we
we did. Yeah, exactly. There's nothing like those Memphis boners. They're a special breed. But no, that was a really fun trip too. You came down, and that's when you shot the little live unplugged Alex Duquette thing. That was fun.
Yep. Go check that out if you haven't already.
Yeah, just dropped yesterday or the day before, something like that.
Yesterday, I believe.
Yesterday. So on there, I've got some songs from this new album and a couple from my old EP as well. So
that's what's up.
Always good stuff to listen to there.
Randy had a couple of Memphis boners back in his day.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, there's always room for more.
Couple more.
You know, where do we even go from there?
I know, right? I know.
Shep, what do you have to say? Have you checked out the album yet?
I have checked out the album. I did the other day on my drive home from work, and I dig it. It wouldn't be my go-to genre that I'd grab if I was just like looking or digging for music.
I can imagine. Sure,
but I did really, like I said, I did really enjoy it. A lot of the questions I had thought to ask, you had already answered them when you came in here, opening it up and being like, well, I don't know, you know, where do we go from here and stuff like those. What sort of musical inspirations did you have going into that, like making music in general or anything? Because, you know,
sure,
even with let me see here.
I was going to ask that too, because there's definitely one big comparison I can make. Like anytime because Bell said something to the same effect of like, this just it's good. This isn't my kind of music. I wouldn't listen to that, but it is mine because I listen to Ben Folds a lot.
That's what I was going to say too.
And he seems like a big one.
Yeah, I can definitely talk to you about some influence. First of all, Ben Folds is one of my favorites of all time. So no surprise, right? One thing I love that Ben Folds did was that like back in the 90s, like he took like the punk rock approach, but put it on a frickin' piano. So like he would get out there and he'd swear and he'd do it everyone and he'd like kick chairs over and he'd do all the punk rock stuff, but on a piano. It's like he made piano cool to me. And I didn't really mean to like, I didn't like I want to make a Ben Folds sounding album. I didn't mean to do that. He's just a big influence on me, right? So when I started writing these songs, I noticed that when I write a song on a guitar versus a piano, it sounds very different. And when I gravitate to my piano songs that I write, they just happen to sound like Ben Folds. So, and he also writes story songs. A lot of his songs are stories. So Ben Folds by far is my number one influence, especially over this album. In general, if you're curious, I'd say my biggest influences are Ben Folds. I grew up on the classic rock stuff. My dad, he was an old classic rocker, so he played in his rock bands back in the day. So, I'm a big Beatles fan, Zeppelin, all the classics. So a lot of those old school things you can probably maybe hear a little bit in some of those songs too. But Ben Folds, man, he did it for me, like at the right time, right place. He inspired me as a songwriter. And then really the other influence too, I would say, I didn't even mention, is my dad himself, actually. So there's 2 songs on the album that have guitar solos. Both those were done by my dad. He's an incredible guitarist, much better than I could ever be. So if you hear those solos, that's actually my dad. That's not me. I wanted to showcase him on there. So yeah, he's helped me. He's the reason why I'm kind of doing all of this stuff. Helped me learn how to mix music. He does that in his spare time. So he's got a lot of years of experience. So he's a big influence too.
That's what's up, man.
It's kind of like the equivalent of like a dad and a son, like they're throwing a football out in the yard. My dad and I can't throw a football to save our lives, but him and I, since I was little, we would jam. Right, he'd pull out the guitar and I'd play the piano or I'd sing or whatever. That's our equivalent. You know what I mean?
So, I had a nightmare fuel happen the other day where it was my dad's birthday and I texted "Happy birthday, Dad" to the wrong number, to somebody else. I was like, oh man, because I was sitting around. It's Saturday, I believe. I was watching the Royal Rumble with the boys. And I kept being like, man, that's messed up, man. I told my dad happy birthday. He ain't even hit me back. Like, that's kind of messed up. And then I was like looking at it and I was like, Dad, that just sounds, I'm in my mid-30s. So I'm like, Dad doesn't sound like something I'd save my dad's phone number under. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I went to looking and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. His number is Pops. That's right. So I hit him up.
Right.
Like, hey man, I got 11:45 at night. I'm like, happy birthday. Sorry.
Hey, you still made it. That's all that matters. You still made it.
That's right, man. It's like I texted you hours ago, but somebody else got it. So
yeah, I called somebody else's dad today.
Yeah,
those are always the best stories. Like sometimes you hear stories about people who like accidentally text somebody and they actually end up like becoming friends or like they actually have a long conversation. That crap happens. It's hilarious.
Oh, I just blocked the number. I was like, yo, I'm not going to have some embarrassing. Somebody hit me up like, what, do you not know who your own father is? Do you not talk to this man or something?
This guy thinks I'm he's my son. What's going on here?
Either that or that person's over there like, I have a son, like,
yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
I have a child. And then he never hears from you again because you blocked his number.
Honey, I think I have another
Whoever
son.
had that number
have to find
happened to have the same birthday that day. And did receive a text saying "Happy birthday, Dad." It's like I would freak out. I would.
Yeah. Well, God, see, now you got me thinking. I should write a song about that.
Absolutely. That's a good one.
That's relatable. That stuff happens. You never know.
Right? It's like a reverse Big Daddy situation.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. Yeah.
That's cool.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But do you what's your favorite tracks from the album? Yeah.
Oh, hold on. He just sent in another one. He said, I got a very sad and depressing voicemail once. Had to call back to tell them I wasn't John.
Oh, man.
I'm so sorry to whatever happened to John.
Yeah.
Whoever that is.
Hey, you're going to have to do this again. You have the wrong number.
Yeah, that would suck. Shep, you're going to ask me something?
Pinata Time had a question in there.
Some of yours. Before you get into that, I enjoyed Gravity Man. I know everybody else was saying theirs earlier, and I was like, I was like trying to think of which one but like just how it was just like piano coming into it and stuff like that. Yeah. I really enjoyed that one.
Well, I appreciate that, and to be honest, the number one song that people are saying, surprisingly, is Gravity Man. Overall, and I think the reason why is because, so when I go through a song, usually how I look at songwriting is much more of like, I mean, they mean a lot to me, and I put my personal feelings into them, but a lot of the times it's kind of a craft, right? Like I got to write a song, I want to get this thing done, and then I'll fix it and craft it and hone it later. Like if you want to be a successful songwriter, that's kind of how you have to write. You can't wait for inspiration. You just got to write, right?
Yeah.
And so I do both. So if I have inspiration, I'll write, and if I don't, I'll write and then pull my inspiration later into it. But Gravity Man was completely on the album, by far the number one song, word for word, lyric for lyric, all right from my heart. That was a very personal song to me. So if you're not familiar with the words at the moment, I encourage you guys to go back and listen again. That song is actually, funny enough, we were talking about Memphis. That I wrote that song about moving to Tennessee. That's what that song's about. So I remember I was in Illinois, 2018, and kind of the beginning of the year, and I remember just sitting in my old studio in Champaign, and I was getting into the writing thing, and I remember I didn't mean for it to come out as it did. I just kind of did this E chord. It's over and over again. Super simple, like Shep was saying, just piano. The whole song is just piano. But I knew what I was feeling, right? Like I was in there to probably write a different kind of song, but then I remember at the time I was just really getting down about like, because the idea of that song is basically, I want to do big things. I want to see what the world has to offer, but I'm really freaking scared, and I don't think I want to do it. Like that, it's this internal conflict of like being afraid of opportunity, and I don't think that's talked about a lot in songs. Like a lot of people talk about wanting to do it, you know, or a lot of people talk about just being alone and being isolated, but not a lot of people talk about the internal struggle you have. Like, you know, I always tell people like being an introvert's one thing, but being an introverted like musician is a totally different thing, because like all you want to do is like go out there and make music for people and move to a town like Memphis that has more music. And then, but at the same time, I'm so scared and nervous and I don't want to make any changes, you know? So Pinata says, good job presenting that. It moved. I'm glad it moved you. The song moves me too. And that's why it means so much to me. And that's also why I kept it simple. But I think that's something we can all, like a lot of us, especially artists, can kind of relate to, like the being afraid of change, but just wanting to know. That's why the whole thing is, I want to know, I want to know, I want to know. Now, if you're curious, since we're on Gravity Man, I'm just giving you little nuggets here, but when I write a song, I usually I have the title first. I think I said that before already. Like I'll come up with a title, and then I'll write the song if I like the name of the title. So like that's why I have some really weird ones like Breadcrumbs and Vaseline, for example, which is my favorite, my personal favorite. And but anyway, so Gravity Man was actually a joke between our mutual friend Dave and I, Dave from Camp Nostalgic. Him and I had this joke forever ago to write a sketch. I don't even know if he remembers this. So, Gail, if you're listening, ask him if he remembers. But our idea, if you guys are curious, so I had the name Gravity Man first, and that was because him and I wanted to have this really stupid superhero, and he was Gravity Man. And his whole thing was that he went by the laws of gravity. So, in other words, he has no powers, right? That was the whole point of the joke. He's just Gravity Man, right? Okay. That's kind of a stupid joke. It fits with our brand of comedy. It never came anywhere, and then I thought, you know what? Like Gravity Man is a good song title. So then that's where I came up with the what's it called? I guess the comparison, or you know, the allusion to like Gravity Man, right? Like afraid of what's past the ceiling. They call me the Gravity Man. You know, it's all just play on words and stuff, but being afraid to see what's above the clouds. Breadcrumbs and Vaseline is about a Reddit user. You were close, Pinata Time. So I guess I'll explain that since he just brought that up too. If I'm talking too much, tell me and I'll shut up. You know me, I'm a talker. At all. So
it's your album.
It's true. It is my album. So Breadcrumbs and Vaseline. So for those of you listening who may not know, that song tells a story of a guy who wants to be a movie star. He wants to be an actor, right? He wants to play the Hollywood game. And he's dirt poor, no money in his pockets. And he's just living off breadcrumbs and Vaseline. That's kind of the idea. Now I loved the phrase breadcrumbs and Vaseline. Now, that wasn't original. I didn't just come up with that in my head. I actually stole that. I was on a message board. This is an interesting story. So I have an electronic drum set, as you can see back here, and one of the pedals wasn't working on that drum set. And this was quite a few years ago now. And there was a piece that I needed, but I didn't know where to find the piece. So I was on these like message boards, on these like drumming message boards, trying to figure out what this piece is called, where I can buy it. A really small proprietary piece for this kit. And then one of the usernames on the message board, his username was Breadcrumbs and Vaseline. That's so freaking good. That's such a weird ass name. You know what I mean? So like I have to, you know what I mean? Like I have to use that. So I thought, okay, what am I going to do? Like Breadcrumbs and Vaseline. This is what am I going to do? Well, I ended up later on, I moved to Memphis. I didn't write the song until I moved to Tennessee. And I remember I was sitting on my couch and I was actually playing my acoustic guitar. This was not on the piano. And I remember I had this line and it was, but I'll drop dead before I will admit it. And I just kept saying that. I'll drop dead before I will admit it. And I loved how it sounded for some reason. Why would I stand on this hill? Like I would drop dead before I'd admit something. What, and then I started to think about it and I thought, okay, maybe it's a guy he's really passionate about something, but nobody believes in him. But what would that be? Music, movies, whatever. Because, the big things, you know what I mean? Like don't quit your day job, that sort of thing. Oh, you do music? That's cool. So what do you do for work? That sort of thing. Like nobody really kind of believes that you can do it.
Yeah.
And I thought, come on, what is it? And so anyway, that's how I slowly came up with it. Then I thought Breadcrumbs and Vaseline could be the stuff that he's living off of because he's got no money in his pockets. He's trying to make ends meet. So just living off breadcrumbs and Vaseline. That's kind of the idea.
Love it.
So I know it's wild. Because the breadcrumbs, I've had a few people ask me to online and in person. So like, I get the breadcrumbs part, but what's the Vaseline part about? And I'll leave that to your interpretation, if you will. It's a guy. He's living off two things. What else do you need besides a little bit of food and some Vaseline, if you know what I mean? That's all I'm going to say. So, but take it as you will. I didn't really write it that way, but it kind of sounds like that.
Yeah.
So
Vaseline just helps it go down easier.
That's right.
It's for the breadcrumbs. Yeah.
That's right. It's for the breadcrumbs. But yeah, that's just kind of what I do. I have a phrase and then I go for it. I do want to give a shout out since you guys are probably still in the chat here. A couple of my fans are in here, which is Weber and Pinata. You guys are awesome, and I have some other internet fans as well. That support really helps. Helps keep you going when you don't want to go sometimes. So I appreciate that. I know their personal favorite is my opening track, which is called Cookie Cutter Life. That's one of my more rockin' kind of songs. And that's the thing, too. A lot of these songs, I will say as well, are like, I'll like write, and maybe you can kind of relate to this too, like Shep, like you might have like a verse or like a stanza that you wrote and you can't fit it anywhere. Maybe not. Maybe you don't do this, but like for me, like I'll have something I wrote and then I don't know what to do with it. Sometimes for like a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? And then like all of a sudden, like it'll click and then you can fit it into a song later. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I've got plenty of that, man, on my notes app and whatnot. Like if I'm ever at a, trying, like I really want to make a song or something and I don't know what, that's usually my first go-to is like, let me scroll back 2 years in my notes app and start going through.
You never know.
Yeah. And seeing if anything that cause I, like you're saying, like a lot of that will, you'll just think of one simple line and it's like, well, I can't think of anything to rhyme off that right now. But I'm still going to write this down because if I don't, I'm going to forget it. Sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh shit, and type it on my phone. Yeah, it's weird how it works like that. It really is. How something and a lot, well, like a good example is I found a notebook a little while ago now, but it was from years back, like almost 10 years ago. And it had a song, that was a song that a lot of people that was liking at the time when I put it out, but it was like the original one that I wrote, completely different title, different name and all that. And those are, I love watching how a song goes from like that and morphs into the finished product of what it actually is. It's fun.
It's so cool. Cause, what I do for every song that I've written, every song on this album, any song I've written in general, I'll always, just like you said, you'll pull out the phone, pull out the notes. What I'll do is I'll pull out the phone and hit record, and I'll just have my guitar or piano or ukulele, whatever I'm playing at the moment, right? And I'll just, right? So I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these little demos of just trying to figure stuff out. You know what I mean? And sometimes those little nuggets in there will become a song. So then, like, I'll listen back to those sometimes just because I can, and I go, oh my God, I forgot that's where that came from. Like, you'll forget sometimes.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to touch on too is you mentioned, like, you wake up in the middle of the night and you got like an idea. Those are, and so many times, the best ideas, the ones that just happen like that. Like, there's a reason why, like, it's late at night, you're not even thinking about it, and then all of a sudden it just hits your head, and then it's like, oh my God, like, you always need to act on those. I think those are always the big ones.
They are, yeah, and it's, yeah, because sometimes it's actually like when you stop and think about it, it's weird how it feels, for me sometimes it feels like somebody else is in control of me. It's like somebody else is taking over right now.
It's wild.
I play an instrumental and I'm listening to it, and yeah, you just sit down in one session, you just write everything out for it. And like, even if I like walk away with my last Halloween album, I kept doing that, and I'd have a night where I can't sleep, I'd stay up and I'd demo out like 2 or 3 new songs, and then I'd be like, oh damn. And then I have a big problem in my recording process. I have a big problem of it's all demo. The first take's always real sloppy, real nasty.
Sure.
But I love how it sounds so much that when I go back and like to record it proper, and it's like I know everything's on point, it's where it's needed, but it just doesn't sound like it's like.
I know.
And I've made the goal this time that I'm not going to sit down to like demo out a song. Like, I'm not going to, if I do that, I'm not going to walk away from it unless I could like be like, I would release this song right now. Yeah. Just so I can, so I can keep that original magic as much as possible. I
love that idea, because here's the truth. Like, if it's really good, like it's really good, you're not going to forget that anyway. Like, it's going to stay in your head. You know what I mean? Sometimes everybody like will record everything down anytime they can, sloppy, whatever, just so they don't forget it. But honestly, in my opinion, if you get those inspirational things and you get that in your head and you're working it out in your head and it's really good and catchy, or like it sticks out, it will not leave your head until you're ready to officially record it. So that's kind of how I try to look at that too. I'm still pretty bad with recording everything, but but it's true. Like, not everything you're going to make is incredible, right? Anybody, like, it's just not. But those things will stick in your head. And like, then when it's time to record, you still have that magic. Because I feel that way too. I'll do my first take of everything. I'm like, this sounds so good, but I gotta redo it. And then like you lose a little bit of that luster. I totally get it. I can relate to that. I can. I'm trying to think here.
Chase, you're just chilling back now. You got anything?
Yeah,
you got any questions?
just listen.
You're just vibing now.
All right. Well, I guess we'll loop this back around, shall we? So before the show, we were talking about streaming services and how we think, the way they're going with pricing, stuff like that, it's gonna make a few people jump ship on streaming, and to me, it makes it seem like physical media is gonna hang in there a little longer because of it. And that got us talking about CDs. And for me, I'm a physical media kind of guy. I just love to have the physical copy, especially if it's something I really love. Like music, we all stream music and stuff. But like, if it's like a friend of ours makes a CD, I want a copy of it. If sure, a band that I really like comes out with a new album, I would like a copy of that album. And you were dropping some knowledge right before we went live, but we had to cut it short.
Oh yeah.
So
well, I first and foremost, because I've recently just got into figuring out how to go through the process of like actually manufacturing CDs, which I can get into in a second, because I will be releasing a limited release for my album in the next few weeks, which is cool. But when I was going through that process, I was doing some research. I'm thinking, okay, how many do I need to press? Like, I don't have I'm not like famous, so like I don't need to make many, right? I don't want to, because I took it as I'm going to take a loss on this, So how much am I willing to lose just for the novelty to have the CDs, right? So I landed on 100 because I've had a lot of interest, and I'll hold on to those forever, right? However many I still keep.
Mhm.
And then I learned that I was looking into it, and I'm thinking, because no one uses CDs anymore. But then I learned that I think, can remember the year, it's either 2019 or 2020, maybe 2021, but I was reading some stats, and it's that just like vinyl shot up, right? Like everyone's buying vinyl again. CD sales are starting to increase now. They started to dip in the 2010s, and now they're starting to go up again. So there's a reason for that. I think people like that novelty and that physicality, that tangibility. You know, like with my CD, right? I'm just an independent artist. I could so easily at any point reach out to my distributors, cut that off, and then you can't listen to my music anymore.
Right.
Right. When you have a CD, it's there. You pay for it once, don't have to pay for it again. So there's my plug. Buy my CD when it comes out. It'll be on Amazon. Songs from Sangamon Street. I'll tell everybody when. But seriously though, it's the novelty of it. I think it's cool. I still have all my old CDs. I'll probably never get rid of them just because you never know.
Yep.
I would wonder if that didn't coincide with when didn't some artists start taking their music and stuff off Spotify and whatnot a few years back? Like I think Neil
so.
Young.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And stuff. So maybe that kind of woke people up to what you're saying there. Just the fact that as long as, like me as Johnny Cash, if I want to pay, I think it's through DistroKid, like $60 per album to make sure it permanently stays up on stores. It's like, nah, I ain't trying to pay $60 per album. Like I'm just going to put this out. So yeah, if I stop paying my yearly subscription up on there, it'll just be gone.
It's gone.
And there's something to say, man. Like I know Pinata was saying it in the comments. There's something special about CDs. Even when I was releasing, I think it was my first Halloween one when I did. Oh yeah, and Chase, it was when we were doing that concert with AV and them. I wanted to make some CDs too, and that was like I was like, all right, I know I'm gonna do it all, DIY it, So I know I'm just gonna burn some CDs. I'm gonna get some jewel cases. But I was very set on I was like, I want to figure out some sort of plastic I can get and wrap around it. So like when someone gets it, they can have that feeling of like ripping the plastic off and like taking the
whole
disc out
experience.
And stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something to say about all this physical media and whatnot, and that's a lot to it, and that used to be a big thing within albums, was to be able to pull that booklet out, to see all the lyrics within it, to hear things from the artists, like special things, who they're thinking, or even like producers or extra voices. I was in a lot of hip hop, so like a lot of the songs would just be the song names on the back of the album. So it was really where you dove in on the lyrics section where you'd get to see like, oh, this song was featuring this person and this person.
There's so many songs I haven't listened to in like over 15 years that I just like somehow still know the lyrics to, and they were all ones that I would sit there and I'd read the lyrics and the booklets.
Listening to an album, whether it was vinyl 50 years ago or it's a CDs 20 years ago, it was
a vinyl
experience.
2 weeks ago.
Or vinyl 2 weeks ago, since vinyl's big again. You're right. There's something like it's all about the experience and presentation. I feel like now, it just feels that like I feel like a lot of like big artists who are able to do so, you're just churning out singles, moving on to the next one, turning out single next, right? And then it's like, oh, I have an album out, but none of the songs matter except the single, right? When I feel like years ago it wasn't like that. Like you'd buy the CD, you'd listen to every song, right? You wouldn't just skip, go to the one you like. I mean, maybe you would, but like, albums are created, in my opinion, just like I made Songs from Sangamon Street. Albums are created in such a way for the listener to enjoy them. Like there's like there's people whose jobs in studios is just to sequence songs. Literally, their job is just to find the order of songs. That's their only job.
It's one of my favorite things to do. I found out a few years ago doing a friend's CD. They had been putting out a lot of music, but they didn't have like a full thing put together. And I was like, allow me. And it's one of my favorite things to do is just take music and figure out the flow of an album.
That's so important. Have your ups, have your downs, tell your story how you want. That was important for me with my record, since it's already a very story-driven album. And But yeah, that's so important. Like,
Mhm.
there's a reason why it's presented to you in such a way. There's a reason why their album cover says what it does. There's a reason why you open up the CD and the insert on the inside shows what it shows. Like, everything was an intentional choice, and I feel like that's not celebrated anymore,
Mhm.
and that sucks.
Yeah.
So because that's all part of the process, right? It's not just the artist. There's a photographer, there's a producer, someone wrote the lyrics, right? All this stuff, you know, and I think that should all be celebrated and appreciated. So when some of these like artists come out and they do have vinyl still, like some of my favorite artists that I listen to today that are like current, I'll buy their vinyl because I want to support that and celebrate that and have that experience. Same with video games. I'm a big gamer. Same thing with games. Like people who still put up physical things. I know it sounds crazy in 2023, but just to have that, you know, what I do miss with games is those manuals. It's so like it's so cool looking back at like old like PS2 or like GameCube manuals or whatever, or earlier than that.
I would have never
so it's
beat
just gone
Resident
now.
Evil if it wasn't for the walkthrough.
Yeah.
Exactly,
This is
right?
a fact on fact. Yeah. No, but I mean, I vibe with what you're saying. I think even as as the lower level artists, getting into it, I think a physical copy is something that can make your release memorable too. I know Black Mage.
Yes.
I've got a copy of his Hold This L EP.
I have one as well, and I love it.
Yeah, designed as a PlayStation game. So and it's so
That's
unique,
cool.
especially because it's like who has an album with designed as a PlayStation game?
Right.
So yeah,
That's awesome.
I
it's sick.
mean, obviously I still buy movies, and people will flip me shit for it every now and then, but more and more lately, people will go on to watch a movie and it's just not there. And I haven't had that problem as much because I usually have a copy. We were talking about prices going up on streaming services. If push came to shove and I really had to cancel Disney Plus, I own most of the Disney Plus library other than their original shows. Like that's where the loss would be. But yeah, I mean, I still have memories of that's what it was always about to me, is the experience of the whole thing, not just what was inside. And that's why I still collect them to this day, because I remember as a kid going to like Walmart or something and seeing a DVD. I got to bring it home. I'm looking at it in the car. I get to take the plastic off. I'm reading the back. I'm looking at the picture on the front. I'm looking at the bonus features, just ready to get home and put this thing in the DVD player and see what's going on with it. And the other thing as well, talking about just listening to the album in its entirety. I feel like I do that far more when I have the actual physical CD. I mean, yes, after a while I might skip songs and go to my favorites and stuff, but I usually always want to listen to it that first time all the way through. And there's so many albums that I love because of that. Anytime I make any music, I always work it in a way that like I'm not really focusing from song to song. I'm focusing on the whole project. And I love making something that like, no, I am asking a lot of you, sit down for an hour and listen to this thing from start to finish, because I designed it that way. And that's how I want people to hear it,
Yeah. That's a tough one too, because like once you make your project, like when I made Song from Sangamon Street, I made it. And then like I was talking to like Steph, and I was talking to, or even like, so like little hints to the future here. Camp Nostalgic's more than likely going to produce a music video for me, which is cool. And but I remember like Dave, like he asked me, he said, "So what song's your single?" And I'm like, for me, like it's probably better for you to listen and tell me, because for me, like I can't. These are all a whole. It's all one big thing. It's kind of hard to pull one out and go, okay, this is the one that stands out above the rest. It's like, no, they all are as good as they are because of the song surrounding them.
Yeah,
in
I
my
guess that
opinion.
kind of answers Pinata Time's question here.
What single would have been, if you were to get one, if you had to pick one, Alex, what song would you make the single the song would get pushed the most? Well, I can still answer that because like if I think about my entire record, there's some that I think, at least, and it's funny because once again, other people have different opinions. I had one called She Won't Be Coming Back Home, and I thought that sounded pretty poppy. I thought that one would have worked. Conflict of Interest seems to be one that a lot of people are kind of gravitating towards. But then you got stuff like Gravity Man or Breadcrumbs and Vaseline, and I feel like those songs are a little too like Breadcrumbs and Vaseline is probably a little too alternative to be a
I don't
radio
know.
song.
Part of me
You don't
feels
think
like it's
so?
part of me feels like it's catchy enough. Because I
Yeah.
find myself, that's the one I find myself humming, here and there the most.
Breadcrumbs
Like
and
it's there.
Vaseline.
It's like I cannot escape it.
Yeah. Well, maybe that is it. See, it's hard to ask the artist because it's like
Right.
I don't know. To me, I like them all, so you know. But
Pinata might be right. Cookie Cutter Life.
Cookie Cutter Life, the first one. Yeah, that's. See, once again, all the ones I named are
Yeah.
ones that nobody else named.
Let's
so I
just
think I'm
name
the
all
worst
9 of
person
them,
to ask.
really.
Yeah. I think we Go Sit in the Car is a banger too. Go Sit in the Car is an interesting one. I'll explain it if you're unfamiliar with it, anyone listening. Go Sit in the Car is about basically just this couple, and they get in this huge-ass fight in a convenience store. That's the whole point of the song. And he gets more and more progressively mad as the song goes on. And the whole idea, the chorus is, if I would have known you'd be acting this way right now, then I would have told you just to stay home, take the keys, go sit in the car. Right. Which is something that everyone said before, whether it's a parent to a kid or so I've had so many people reach out to me and say like, this song I almost can't listen to because it's too real. I've been there. You know what I mean? Because if you listen to the song, he just gets more and more mad. Like, and at the end of the song, he's so freaking mad. They're screaming at each other in the parking lot. He takes the keys back and he drives off without her. He just leaves her at the Walmart or wherever they're at. Right. Which I thought that was a fun little twist to end the song on. Anyway, that one might be a fun one, Pinata, but I don't know if that would be the most commercial one.
Yeah. It's coming to a close. It's about that time. Apologies if I feel like we got most of the comments. Usually, when we have a show rolling, we have to skip over a few comments. But thank you guys for participating. And before we go,
thanks.
One time for the mind. Finishing thoughts here. Closing thoughts. I'll start. I never start, I guess.
Yeah, you start.
Alex, I'm very proud of you. It's a great album. I
Thank
really enjoy it. I could tell I know that you've been working hard on it. I'm glad I got to be a small part in the process, doing the live performance with you.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. It was really fun to do that, and it's cool to kind of, you were one of the first ones to hear a couple of those songs, and just kind of to bounce those off under the creative is always really nice. And I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to it. Shep, even like you said, I know it's not your go-to, and I knew that because I know what kind of music you do. Totally get it, but I appreciate you still but I appreciate you listening. Because I've heard a lot of what you do, and I've always appreciated that too. And God, you know what's funny? I would love to do hip hop. Side note, really quick, because I do love hip hop. The problem is that I have rhythm, but I can't write like that. That's totally different lyricism right there. That's a whole nother level. You know what I mean? That's incredible. So what you're doing is awesome, man.
Honestly, with both of you, I can't do lyrics, so I watch both of you and all. So.
No, and it is awesome, man. Like I said, I did enjoy it. That's why I had asked for the inspiration. It definitely has that Ben Folds feel to it, and in a very good way too, and not in a way that you're like, this is just this reminds me of Ben. He's just trying to not it's not like you're trying to be that, but you can hear the inspiration there in the stuff, and I think it's dope, man. I still be jamming it, man. If you get physical copies, holler at us. I'll still get one of those.
Hell yeah.
Because even though it's not the go-to, that like I said, there's still some chillness in there. That's like, oh man, we can put that on and smoke and kick it and do our thing.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I really do. Thank you.
Bust out these last few comments. Pinata, this was so much fun. Thanks, y'all. Have a good one. Pinata, thanks for tuning in.
Pinata.
I see you over on Alex's channel all the time. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate
Weber
you, brother.
says hip hop is a lot of rhythm, so you might fit into that.
I can't rap. That's the only part. I just can't do it.
It happens.
That's a different conversation.
Last but not least, all the plugs. Songs from Sangamon Street. Go and check it out. Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you listen to music. Go and give it a listen. Follow Alex. All things Alex at alvMR.net.
right.
Pretty easy to remember, pretty catchy, like a lot of the songs on the album. And
Nice.
if you haven't watched the live performance set yet, go and do that. It's on the channel. And with that, we'll leave you with a little taste of the album and the performance set, closing it out with Breadcrumbs and Vaseline. Let's do it.
Pep talk, reflection on a stovetop. Oh, it's only up from here. It's only up from here. It's just another week without another paycheck. Just living off breadcrumbs and Vaseline. Breadcrumbs and Vaseline. Just one lucky break is all I've ever asked for. I know one day they all will see. Till then I'll drop dead before I will admit it, and say that they were always right. They were always right. I'm waiting for the day I get that call from a man in a black suit with lots of friends. Throw home away, gonna kiss mama goodbye, and take a presidential flight out to LA. Oh, passing scripts and running lines, cutting wrists and shaking hands. Next thing I see is my face on the big screen, and everybody now knows my name. Flashes all around, you better watch what you say, 'cause every word you use now is gospel. Saturday crash the limousine, Monday tabloid show and tell. Just one lucky break, it's all I've ever asked for. I knew one day they all would see. Oh, let me daydream in the alleys of my mind. I'm where I wanna be, and I can finally see this through. Wake up, I'll be ready for the day when I'm where I wanna be, and I can finally see this through. Let me daydream in the alleys of my mind. I'm where I wanna be, and I can finally see it through. And when I wake up, I'll be ready for the day when I'm where I wanna be, and I can finally see this through, and I can finally see this through. Oh. finally see this through. And I can finally see this through. And I can finally see this through. Till then it's just another week without another paycheck, just living off breadcrumbs and Vaseline. Breadcrumbs